All right, so I'm here at Destination Dallas with the Guerrilla Chemist. We're just get some chest done. We're gonna pop a Q&A at the end of this bitch, man. What? So you have some injuries, but we're gonna do mostly machine-based workout.
Yeah, unfortunately I've had 3 surgeries on my left wrist, chronic masturbation. So we're gonna have to do a lot of supersets because I like blood volume stuff. You get a great pump today.
All right, we're gonna do that shit.
There you go. Come on. Just repping it out like it's nothing. There you go.
Give my joints a break.
There you go.
So we did a press, a fly, and another press. Basically, when you're at Destination Dallas, so much fucking great equipment here. You're stupid to just do barbells and dumbbells. I can do that shit at home. Yeah, look at this motherfucking place. I love this fucking gym.
Fucking crushing pencils with this fucking chest right here.
I like on these, I like to get the extra cross. You actually cross your arms and then alternate. That way you get that extra, just really contraction at the bottom. Just really can't replicate that squeeze. Kind of hurts. All right, y'all. I'm with the Guerrilla Chemist, man. What's going on? I need some personal. Oh wait, hold on. I got the machine thing going on. Anyway, man. So we just got done training. It's still dark out a little bit.
Mark tells me yesterday, I got something at 10. Can you make it at 6 a.m. at Destination Dallas? And we just talked about how no one is a morning person. So
no, I don't think it's chemically possible to be a morning person.
No, and we all hate morning people. But the opportunity to train and have this Q&A with Marc Lobliner, who is obviously super well known in the industry, very well liked, knowledgeable guy.
Now, I don't know about liked. I don't know about knowledgeable either.
I couldn't pass up the opportunity, so the alarm went off at 5. I was like, fuck it, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm ready. So obviously he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to chemistry and how things act in the body and supplement use and all these different kinds of uses. I know you asked on your Instagram what kind of questions there are. And first of all, I want to start with, like, you have some cool stuff coming out like Glycolog. And that's something that you were explaining to me, like pre-workout, the rush of nutrients and pre-workout carbohydrate. And that's something that, you know, I've done a very positive review on because I like that category and I like using it properly. And honestly, the reason I like Glycolog is the health implications.
Yeah. It does a lot of things in the body, increasing insulin sensitivity, increasing expression of GLUT4, which is the transporter of how you get glucose into the body, utilization of glucose, glycogen storage, glycolysis, which is the breakdown of carbs. It increases insulin binding to the insulin receptor and stuff. So not only that, but it increases AMPK, which is for longevity, and it also activates enzymes that control energy expenditure, so you can manipulate metabolism with it. So overall, I think it's not an unbiased opinion. I think the glucose disposal agents in general are really good. Metformin has data about life, extended life expectancy and stuff like that. And so I just think that these type of products not only work well in the gym, like taking it pre and post, but are just overall health supplements that can help you utilize carbs better and stay leaner while you're trying to gain muscle, which me personally, I have a hard time. Mark stays ripped 24/7.
We talked about that. And then people ask this, I'm gonna be real. Like, I've been real in my videos before. Like, since I stopped actively getting on stage, I'm so busy during the day that I just don't eat. I'm not a good bodybuilder anymore, you know? I ate 2 meals before 6 p.m. You know, I was in the gym, I had a Subway sandwich, like a rotisserie chicken on wheat. You know, so I still ate within my bro like guidelines.
Right.
Because, you know, you gotta stay bro. But at the end of the day, I think that I have a high metabolism, 21 years of training, and just not eating enough. And that's why I don't make the gains I used to, except strength. But as far as gaining lean mass, dude, I'm 36, been training for 21 years. You're gonna need a shot from Jesus Christ himself to make any kinds of gains. You know, I'm doing my best.
Yeah, we talked about how consistency is a way to almost reset your body's homeostasis.
Yeah.
So if you've been, you know, if you go from 180 to 200, you're more likely to drop back down to 180 because that's your natural set point. But if you've been 200 for 5 years with abs, that's your new set point. And every time you train or you do a competition or you do a cycle or something like that, you're increasing a set point for your body. And the longer you can stay at that elevated body weight or that specific body fat, leanness or whatever, the more likely that will be your new set point that your body will now adjust to, and you won't go below that, or you won't get fatter or anything like that.
Your body likes homeostasis.
Absolutely.
That's what your body's trained to do. So, I mean, the longer you can stay at a state, the more likely you are to stay within that range or closer to that. And I mean, again, like data's great, but I just know, just from a common sense standpoint, your body likes consistency. It just likes it. So 5% for me might be normal, whereas someone else at 8% might feel like shit.
Yeah, personally, I don't have these awesome genetics. I have your typical like Eastern European genetics. So for me to maintain below 10%, I actually have to do the cardio and keep my diet in check. But it's very hard for me to eat whatever I want and walk around as lean as I would like to. But I mean, that's the point, right? We put in the work every day for that reason.
That's why it's dark.
That's why we got up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym.
So you got a whole list of questions on the gram.
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures of booties asking us to work harder? No.
I believe you have
that
one
was me.
that showed me. So it's a picture of all these, about 7 girls.
There are five asses.
5 girls
in a pool
with the bikini pose like this, and they're saying, and the hashtag is work fucking harder.
Work fucking harder. It's like harder. At what? Being a slut? I mean, just saying. I'd hate to be, but look, Insta hoes just drive me nuts.
Yeah, we won't get on a rant because that's a whole different topic.
We're gonna piss everyone off.
I got some questions about ketogenesis, ketogenic diet.
Keto's
like
come back. I get a lot of keto questions now.
So, as somebody who does keto often, I usually will do 5 or 6 months at a time keto. And somebody who follows the research, I used to work in a lab at the University of Tampa under Dr. Jacob Wilson and Ryan Lowry, and their focus when I was there was a lot about ketogenic diet as it pertains to bodybuilding, as far as putting on muscle or body composition and stuff like that. And I learned a lot, and from there, I just kept up with the research now, and there's so much data coming out about ketogenic diets and overall health for one, but changes in body composition. And one of the major things I always get asked is, can you build muscle on a ketogenic diet?
Yeah.
And my answer is yes. It is ketones themselves, like beta-hydroxybutyrate, act as something called histone deacetylase inhibitors, which basically control when your genes are expressed. Like they open up chromatin, which is your genetic material around your cells. And so if you inhibit this from happening, there's data to suggest that decreases myostatin. And so we know that ketones are muscle sparing, and when people go on ketogenic diets, they have a tendency to keep muscle mass and lose mostly body fat, where versus someone who's on a high protein, low carb diet tends to lose more muscle. So I think one of the underlying mechanisms there is that it does actually decrease myostatin, which is really cool. And now everyone is coming out with BHB salts. Have you seen that?
I love BHBs. I've been putting them in a morning shake. The thing is the dose. There's new data they're trying to get suggesting 3 to 5 grams.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen as high as 12 grams. I love BHB salts. Love them.
Yeah.
Because what I like about them is you can throw them into your diet. Even if you're on a glucose diet, it still has that energy source.
Right. And so it's just like MCTs, which are precursors to ketones. Your body doesn't store ketones as fat. It only will use them as energy. And ketones, from an evolutionary standpoint, your body breaks down fat into ketones: acetone, beta-hydroxybutyrate, and acetoacetate. And these 3 ketone molecules have been used by your brain as fuel if you don't have any glucose. And so throughout evolution, when we were hunters and gatherers, you can go long periods of time without eating, and when you go into starvation mode, your body starts to break down fat and use it for energy. And especially if you don't have any glucose in your body, your brain still needs to function.
Yeah.
So we've been adapted to use these ketones for brain function. And so there's a lot of data suggesting that they enhance cognition. Like if you heard of bulletproof coffee,
Yeah.
it has the MCT oils, and they put butter and stuff in coffee instead of sugar. For me, I feel great when I do a ketogenic diet. My energy levels are always stable. I don't have the ups and downs with carbs. And so the BHB salts come in, I don't know if it was Patrick Arnold who was the first to come out with it with Keto Force.
I know he has a patent on them with some application.
Dom DiAgostino over at USF, he works with him. Patrick Arnold came out with Keto Force a long time ago, which was a liquid of the BHB salts, and it tastes like fucking rocket fuel, but it elevates your blood ketone levels very quickly. And then he now has Ketocana, which is a blend of calcium and sodium beta hydroxybutyrate, and I think these salts are coming more and more into application as sources of energy and can help actually enhance fat loss when you're following a ketogenic diet.
And right now, the issue is cost. They're very expensive to make. I mean, I've looked into it. I'm actively pursuing. I've liked them for a year now. So yeah, it's something that, as far as ketosis, I don't believe it's the only way to lose fat. I do believe it's a viable method. My problem with ketogenesis, I don't believe it's a sustainable lifestyle. Like, you're an enthusiast. Like, you can get in, get it done. Most people, what we need to do is get them on healthy eating lifestyles. Problem with what I say when I formulate a diet, and I never said keto doesn't work, I'm saying that, hey, you know what, at the end of the day, it's caloric balance which governs everything. You know, I do like ketosis. However, I don't see the average gym goer or average viewer of this channel being able to say that 2 years from now they'll be able to pass up the bread at an Italian restaurant. And that's what I look for when I create. Like, I don't look for optimal. I look for optimal as what people can follow.
Yes.
And what people can follow long term. And I don't like flexible dieting, or IFYM as it's known, because what happens is I don't see that people can maintain bringing a food scale and using their fit day every time they go out to a restaurant.
Yeah, as you guys know, one of my colleagues and fellow Blackstone athlete, Lauren Conlon, is a huge believer in flexible dieting, and it kind of eliminates the cravings that people get and hopefully can help deter the rebound from competition and
but
stuff.
There's also an issue with trigger foods, which is a psychological fact.
Absolutely.
I mean, some people just can't eat one cookie. That's the problem. So the thing is, there's no perfect diet for everyone, but some people can do ketosis forever and love it. I mean, bacon.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, people, you know, when you're looking at lifestyle and different diets of different regions, I do think that, you know, a balanced, I hate to say balanced because what's really balanced, but, you know, a diet that is comprised of some carbs, some fat, and some protein is adherence. Because the key term is adherence. Like, what can people adhere to? And, like, we can tell them these great protocols that are shown to put on 20 pounds lean mass, but if they're not going to be able to follow it, they're mute.
Exactly.
So I like ketosis. I couldn't long-term live that lifestyle.
It is difficult, like Mark said, for tons of people. Me personally, when I do a diet, no matter what it is, I like super simple.
Yeah.
And so for me, keto was super easy.
You order a double cheeseburger and leave the bun off.
Yeah, I love eggs and bacon every day for breakfast. I can eat like ground sausage, pepperoni. I put butter on everything.
Yeah.
So for me, I had like basically 5 food choices, and I just cooked it and right then ate it. Versus meal prepping with, you know, I need to measure this amount of nutrients or that amount of nutrients.
It's a pain in the ass.
Right. So Mark made an excellent point with, is it, you know, sustainable? And for most people, I would say no. But if you would truly can dedicate yourself to doing it, I do believe there's tons of health benefits, as well as being able to keep lean body mass, as well as gain muscle, as well as body fat loss. So if you can do it, and all these BHB products that are coming out, I think they do have a place.
Yes.
For me, when I take them personally, I took them first thing in the morning, like Mark said.
What's your dose?
5 grams.
That's what I've been working with, 5. I'd love to be able to go to 12, but it's cost prohibitive.
So for me, I was lucky that I was able to get samples from a few places. Compound Solutions was one.
Oh yeah, those are the ones I was using.
The BHB Go, and they sent me the liquid keto ester that they're playing around with, and that stuff really elevates your blood ketone levels, and it's super concentrated. So
they use the 3 salts in theirs.
they have magnesium, calcium, and sodium.
Yep.
And so the Patrick Arnold's, I think, was almost 12 grams per dose, and which is a lot. I think I was doing 5 grams 3 times a day, and that was keeping my blood ketone levels elevated along with a ketogenic diet. But there's actually research that's, like Mark said, you can take them with a carbohydrate diet and use them for fuel or for mental focus as well.
Because your body loves fat. I mean, I always wake up, and I've done videos on this, I always take some form of fat in the morning. It goes along with that coffee thing.
Yep.
You know, your brain loves fat. It is what it is. I don't think you can function optimally without fat in your diet, mentally. It's a hormone precursor. Just don't be shy of fat. That doesn't mean go out and eat 500 grams of fat today, but it means just make sure you get your adequate fat in your diet.
Yeah, most people are scared of fat, and fat is precursors to lots of different hormones. It increases your HDL
Vitamins,
levels,
soluble absorption,
exactly.
everything.
So you don't want zero fats in your diet. I think that's definitely the wrong way to go. Your testosterone levels will crash if you have zero fat.
Yeah.
And your brain fog, I think, will kick in because you're not getting any of those omega-6s and omega-3s that you need.
Exactly.
So hopefully that helped with the ketones and the ketogenic diet stuff. I personally like it. I do it. I'm on it right now. I know that for me, it helps me stay lean, which is the hardest thing for me, is to actually walk around with, 8 or 7%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of questions. We got people ask a lot of gear stuff. People ask SARMS stuff. We just had a cool conversation about
We like SARMS. I like SARMS. People think I don't like SARMS. I love them. I think they're great. I really do. I like drugs. I'm not against that. I'm against optimizing whatever you want to do within your view of what is healthy and after you research. My only issue with SARMS is the quality and trusting a CFA from China and the fact that we don't know where they're being made. That's it. If you can find a reputable SARMS source that is proven and verified, I've done videos, I get murdered by these enhanced athlete fans, and honestly I have nothing against the guy, but to say that a dude selling probably the highest margin things on the market he gets from China for pennies on the dollar, and then marking it up to $80 a unit, I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's out for money too. And all of us have financial stake. You have bills to pay. I have bills to pay. But look, here's the real deal. With my resources and what I do, I come out with a SARMS product tomorrow and bury that guy. But I'm not going to do it because I don't want to go to prison. And we honestly don't know. Like, it's so gray. Like, they can literally start arresting people tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. I like SARMS. I just don't like the current environment in which they're being sold.
So the one thing people forget,
like, if High Tech made the SARMS, I'd be like, cool. They're testing it coming in, they're testing it going out. That's great. But Jared ain't making SARMS.
Yeah. The people often forget these are pharmaceutical compounds that were developed for a reason, and then they were stopped. So companies like put in tens of millions of dollars to develop drugs, and these for some reason didn't make it past certain clinical trials. And so you have to kind of think about why. And so that's why, if you don't know the research, which I pride myself on reading all these studies before I ever tell anyone anything or put anything in my body.
Yeah.
You kind of want to know why, what were these made for, and how do you take them, and what's the right dose and stuff like that. A lot of times when the SARMs first hit the market, I don't know who had the balls to actually bring them to the market as a supplement, because that's absolutely completely illegal. But the doses I've seen are so high compared to what the studies are.
Wasn't it 3 milligrams in the studies? They're recommending 25 to 30 on the labels.
Yeah, so
I've seen as high as 50.
Ostarine.
I don't know what it does at that level.
So we're talking about Ostarine, and the purpose of a SARM, just to clarify, is they were trying to separate the anabolic properties versus the androgenic properties of testosterone. And so these molecules are not steroids. They bind to the same receptor and they activate the same genes as testosterone does, but they're not steroidal. So they don't convert to estrogen, they don't convert to DHT at a certain dose. So the 3 milligrams was the study dose on Ostarine. But everyone's selling them at the lowest I've seen is 10. I've seen up to 50. And at that point, the androgenic part is actually kicking in more, because at 3 milligrams, yes, it was able to separate those properties, but nobody's taking 3 milligrams. I know women that take 3 times that or 5 times that, and once you start doing that, that's when all the side effects start to come out, and they're not these, utopian panacea products that everyone thinks they are. They do have side effects. They do suppress your testosterone levels. All the studies show that. LGD, Ostarine, they've all been shown to suppress your test levels by up to like 30 or 40%. So, you need PCT if you're going to take something like this. You can't just take it and think that there's no problems. And so a lot of people who get, gynecomastia or water retention or estrogen-related side effects ask me questions like, why is this happening? I thought they don't convert to estrogen. Well, they don't. But if you
3 milligrams.
right, but if you suppress your own testosterone and you don't do a PCT, then your body, we talked about homeostasis, your body's estrogen will be elevated.
It's gonna pop right up.
And you won't have any testosterone to counteract that. So the thing with SARMs is that you need to really understand how they work and the dose at which you should be using. So I always recommend everybody, we just talked about this, minimum effective dose. And that's with anything in life.
I honestly have no issue if you find a trusted source taking the study dose of 3. But there's the thing, there's two issues. What will 3 actually do? I mean, will it do enough? It's kind of like, like HGH. You take 1 to 2 milligrams, you got some great anti-aging effects. And then you have pros taking a vial a day. We don't even know what it does at that. We have no data on the doses they're taking. We're just using them as, all I know is they have really big hands.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
So, to Mark's point about that, MK677 is the growth hormone releasing compound that was, roped into that SARM category, although it's not a SARM. It has nothing to do with testosterone. Strictly ghrelin and agonist, so increases hunger like crazy. But I was taking some recently, and I noticed great. It keeps me lean all the time, just like GH does. But my hands swell up, my feet swell up.
It means it's working.
Yeah, that means you have GH. And so we don't have long-term studies on this. There are human data for this at 25 milligrams, which is the dose that you're using. But even at that dose, it's still, I've still had ham numbness where I couldn't grip weights in the gym and stuff like that. And so these compounds are strong. They were developed pharmaceutically. These aren't natural supplements that were found in these trees over here that somebody extracted. So treat these things as such. Treat them as strong compounds. Do the research. Know the dose you're supposed to take, and always start off on the low end. Once it's like if you have a headache and you take morphine, Tylenol is going to do shit. So once you make that leap, you can't go back. So I always start with the lower dose and work your way up.
That's a great metaphor.
Also, I get questions about them, SARMs in women. So that study with the 3 milligrams was actually done on women. So these compounds were made for men or for women. But like you said, it's all dose relevant. So there aren't any androgenic side effects at 3 milligrams a day.
We don't know what's going to happen at 9.
Right,
12,
exactly.
15.
If women start taking them at 10, 20, 30 milligrams, like some of the men are taking, it could present virilization effects. I mean, that's off another topic, but that's a huge issue that's in our industry now, is women who either take fake gear or gear that they think is
Anavar,
right, and they wound up really screwing themselves up a lot. I'm not gonna name any names, but faces start to change. You definitely can see it and hear it in their voice and stuff like that. So SARMs are safe for women in the recommended dose, and so don't think that you can overdo them and think that it's safe and no side effects.
And just for the record, I'm all for clitoral enlargement. I always have trouble finding that motherfucker. If you could just get it out there so I can slap it around.
So someone asked about creatine. A lot of people, you said creatine ethyl esters going on.
Whoa.
Versus monohydrate.
Well, there's actually a study comparing them directly. It was presented to ISSN in 2007.
The ethyl ester?
Yeah, it also put crealkaline, which was phenomenal. Because it actually showed that monohydrate's better than all of them. And ethyl ester, I haven't heard ethyl ester in a long time, because I'm pretty sure we've debunked that.
Yeah.
That ethyl ester is just retarded. People are like, here's the thing. So you're taking 2 milligrams and you don't have any carbs with it. It's just creatine. People are like, I'm not getting bloat. You're not getting creatine. At the end of the day, creatine monohydrate's creatine water, right? It's a molecule, they're bonded molecules. Mm-hmm. What you're looking for is creatine. Is creatine HCl as effective as creatine monohydrate? Yeah. Is creatine ethyl ester as effective? At the same dose, if you're getting the 2.5 to 5 grams, you're going to saturate anyway. My opinion's always been go with monohydrate. I like Creapure because it's, it doesn't have the impurities and it's actually vetted by Creapure. Mm-hmm. Now, Creapure is just simply a trademark creatine. That's it. It's no different than a creatine monohydrate you buy from China, given that the testing came out the same. All Creapure does, it gives you a state of mind where you're like, okay, this is legit creatine. But dude, I don't know about you, but I'm one of those guys. As long as you're getting 2.5 to 5 grams of creatine at least 4 days a week, within 21 days you're saturated, maintain it, no need to cycle it, and just go with mono because it's cheap and that's what the data's on.
Monohydrate's been studied for over 20 years, and it's been tried and true. Like, I agree with everything Mark said. With ethyl ester, here's a little chemistry for you. The ester part of that molecule is added on to the end, and one of the byproducts of creatine is creatinine, which is a reaction, intramolecular reaction, where creatine, which is a linear molecule, now becomes a cyclic molecule. And so creatine ethyl ester, that ester part in chemistry is known as a good leaving group. And so it actually facilitates the reaction of creatine going into creatinine. So I personally would stay away from creatine ethyl ester because of the reason that it can go into creatinine more readily. So you're not actually absorbing it as creatine.
I didn't even know that.
And
that was above my head. There's some big words going on here today.
Creatine HCl is much more soluble than monohydrate, but they did a head-to-head study, and I did some posts about it, and there was really no difference. And so for the money, you're spending more money for something that does exactly the same thing as monohydrate. So to me, I'd rather spend my money on something else versus where I can get monohydrate at like $3
$12
like
a
kilo
grams.
or
Yeah,
something,
it's really cheap.
versus paying all the money for something like creatine HCl or creatine nitrate or something like that.
It's cool marketing, but here's the thing, like the bloating fact, if you're getting creatine, that's what's gonna cause intramuscular, intracellular, retention, which is a good thing. And I mean, I'll take it, the day of the show. So I mean, it's not something I recommend ever cycling off. There's no need. That's like cycling off of beef.
Yeah.
It's naturally occurring.
Exactly. Like Mark said, there's a saturation point where your muscles get enough creatine that you'll be able to sustain for your training to produce more ATP and intracellular water retention. Creatine is known as what's called an osmolyte, so it does bring water into your cells, so that's where the cell swelling comes in.
Yeah.
This question's for you. I got some questions about Carb 10, and how do you use Carb 10? Can you use it pre-workout, intra-workout, post-workout?
Honestly, I mean, the great thing about Carb 10 is that it's very light. It's very low osmolality. It's very low osmolality. It's very light. It's a very small molecule, so it goes fast in the system. But it doesn't cause the gastric distress that a heavier molecule like dextrose would.
Right.
But it has no insulin spike. And my main reason for Carb 10 is, one, selfish, because I was talking about my insulin sensitivity. You give me dextrose, I'm laid down on the floor. I don't care if I eat 45 minutes later. Also, I mean, long-term health-wise, I don't know if you talk to Bruce Neller often, but he's we were talking about the long-term effects of spiking insulin over and over and over and over. And look, at the end of the day, insulin, while it is a very anabolic hormone, if you do spike insulin repeatedly over time, there can be theoretically deleterious health effects. So my thing is, for life, I'm looking at something that, one, I can take personally post-workout and not fall asleep. Two, if you are insulin sensitive, or let's say even if you take something like Glycolog that potentiates that insulin response, that you're not falling asleep during training. I want a nice sustainable carb, but I also want something that is light enough. I like to use the word light. You start using words like osmolality and things like that, people get a little bit like, what the fuck is that? So I mean, look, I want a carb that's quick, but I want a carb that's not going to spike insulin. And I believe that and the cluster dextrin are the two carbs that I most like for that application. While dextrose does have the data on it, I can't discount the benefits of dextrose for post-exercise glycogen replenishment and just straight up studies. I mean, there's more studies on, Tipton studies on carbs and protein are legendary.
Right.
And there's so many of them. For me, it's just not, for my lifestyle, I can't do it. The only time I can sustain dextrose is intra, because I think that I'm training, I'm doing it, and it's during. But even then, afterwards, I tend to crash. And I heard a lot of people have that. And the reason I like Carb 10 is its applications for any. I don't want to have 10 carb powders. I don't want to have Carb 10 pre. I don't want to have dextrose post. I think Carb 10 is versatile. I like the data. We talked about compound solutions with BHB. They have great data on the ingredients that they supply.
Mhm.
You know, you have a a proven source for a good carbohydrate. Again, I'm not saying it's the end all be all of carbs. I just think it's a very good source, and also for a sustainable carb during the day. If you just want an extra carb to throw into your protein, your MRP, to add carbs, it has that low insulin response, and for me it just sustains good energy levels, but it also gets in there fast.
Is it pea starch or rice starch? Pea
From
starch.
pea, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I like it, and I think the data's there. As for its application around training, I'm one of those where I like carbs around training. For me, and also for someone who does have a controlled carbohydrate approach, where I center a lot of my carbs around training and before bed. I like carbs before bed for many reasons. I think people avoiding carbs before bed is stupid.
Okay.
Because I mean, think about it. You eat, you sleep great, serotonin, all that things. That talk about feeling sluggish after carbs. Well,
Go to bed.
beautiful. So I mean, my whole thing is, I like its applications for overall health as well as performance.
Carb 10, I've used it before. I like the fact that it doesn't blow you. For me, certain carb sources, maltodextrin is the worst.
The worst.
on my
It's so
stomach.
heavy.
Yeah, I can't take that.
Isn't it a pretty fat molecule, like as far as on the size scale?
Maltodextrin is, slightly larger than
Yeah.
dextrose is. But for me, it was more of the gastric distress I got from it. I don't want to be drinking something in the middle of my workout, run into the bathroom because it's not being absorbed properly or it's going right through me. And Mark talked about osmology, which is basically how it's bringing water in from your cells. So I did like that part of Carb 10. If you're looking for an insulin spike,
Don't use that.
dextrose is the way
Dextrose
to
is the
go.
king.
Your body, dextrose is glucose, if they're synonymous, and so your body runs on glucose normally,
Unless you're in ketosis.
unless you're in a keto diet. And so dextrose is the molecule that your body will recognize right away. And then I am a fan of cluster dextrin
Yeah.
a lot. I think it has applications. It's also something that is easily digestible, so you're not getting bloated. That's the hardest part for me, is for intra-workout purposes, drinking something that isn't going to make you feel like shit during your
Yeah.
workout. And so I used Carb 10 before. I've developed it into using it for certain products. I think like Mark said, it is versatile. It has lots of applications.
Yeah, I like the versatility. Again, I'm not asking someone to buy 20 different carb products. If you're going to buy a carb product, here's an option. And that's that. I mean, if you want to just, that way you can buy your branch chains intra-workout, throw some in. Post-workout, you need carbs, throw some in. That way you don't have your pantry and your girlfriend or wife like, why the fuck do we have 12 different carb products? Because I think you and I we're both reasonable people. We understand that you can't buy everything for every application. So I just want something that's going to give you optimal or near optimal at as many times as possible.
Right, and that's another good point. So if you're looking for something that you could take, if you're a hard gainer especially, and you're looking for calories and from carbs, you can add this, like you said, on a breakfast
And
morning
not fall
shake.
asleep.
Yeah. The biggest thing, a lot of carbs with that release a lot of insulin, which this one doesn't have a high insulin response, is it makes you super sleepy.
Yeah.
Like Mark said. So if this is a cool application, because a lot of times if you eat, for me, I usually like white rice personally, and if I have too much white rice, it'll just make me too tired.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, I'm not sitting here arguing that brown rice and white rice are going to cause dramatic differences in your physique, but I think we all have real jobs and we all have real lives, and I'm just looking at ways to let this enhance your life and not be like, why am I falling asleep?
People want to know, while we're talking about carbs, do you cycle carbs or do you stay consistent?
I'm consistent. I mean, the only difference is on non-training days, I don't have pre and post workout carbs. I mean, not as much. I mean, I try to get, today when I travel, I'm a shitty bodybuilder, but like when I'm at home, and I try to get about 100 grams pre and 100 grams post. They don't have to be all at once, but I try to get my 50 gram shake and then 50 grams like 45 minutes later.
Okay.
Pre-workout, I try to have 100 grams in the 2 meals or a meal and a shake beforehand. Honestly, it's just one of those where, I mean, you just try to get that reasonable level.
You stay lean though, so some people, for carb cycling is a good option if you're not very insulin sensitive.
I like carbs around training, and I do believe that some training days you need more carbs. Like, I'm not, like, what I do is I'm pretty simple. What I do is I'm like, on leg day I get 2 scoops of carb 10, 1 scoop of whey post. On arm day I get, or shoulder day, or a less taxing day, even chest day, 1 and 1 scoop, so 25. I don't think, I just like carbs around training. I believe that it does help with recovery. while it might not be a huge help, I'll take all the help I can get at 36 years old, man.
I've done carb cycling before, and I think the most important thing is, like Mark said, getting them around training. There's some cool data suggesting, like you said, eating carbs at night, like backloading, versus eating them in the morning. There's data suggesting that if you don't have carbs in the morning, it actually changes the way your body metabolizes them later in the evening.
Yeah.
And so I know Ben Pakulski is a big proponent.
Big proponent of protein and fat breakfast.
Yeah,
Nuts and eggs, man.
Nuts and eggs. And so you get the energy from the fats, and you keep your insulin levels low, and then you're training your body to basically use the carbohydrates more effectively later on in the day. I don't normally eat carbs at night. Well, I take that back. I do. Depends on what I'm eating and how long I'm training.
It depends if he has an emotional issue where he needs some Ben and Jerry's.
No, I was talking to Lauren Conlon about this. Since Christmas until now, I was eating cookies like all the time. My aunt sent me a bunch of cookies.
That's beautiful.
So those. So I think carb cycling is effective first if you want to stay lean. If you're someone like me who is not as insulin sensitive as someone like Mark. So there's no universal diet is the real thing. It's basically trial and error with your body and see how you work.
I mean, honestly, the reason I eat carbs in the morning is because I love toast with my eggs. Let's get like one or two more questions, and then and I think we have a pretty lengthy video. We'll just have to do this again.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a lot of song questions. We already answered that. Nitric oxide boosters. Thoughts on those?
Well, I mean, I think they have their application in pre-workout. I like, I've come to love nitrosogene and agmatine and citrulline now that the patent's not valid, you're able to use it. Arginine, I think it's pretty much been debunked. I think if you see a pre-workout with arginine, you can pretty much say, okay, they didn't really do their research on, and the dosing on arginine. If you take enough arginine to really elicit a response, you're looking at enough to cause gastric distress.
Exactly. The studies on arginine showed, I made a post about this, I think 6 grams of arginine didn't really do anything except it decreased growth hormone release post-workout.
Amazing. I love it. Let's take it.
So arginine, like Mark said, it was the first one. I think NO Explode came out with that, and when your body's not used to having a lot of arginine, if you put a little in there, yeah, it'll work. But if you're somebody that takes a pre-workout a lot, arginine is definitely the lowest of the low, in my experience and from the research on NO boosters. Citrulline is good. Citrulline was compared to arginine, and if you don't know a little bit about the biochemistry, arginine converts to NO via NO synthase, but the byproduct is citrulline. So the thought process is if you backload with tons of citrulline, your body pushes the reaction the other way to make more arginine, which then again makes more NO. And so citrulline actually increased arginine levels more effectively than arginine did.
Yeah, and then agmatine also, I think that's another great one where there's good data on it, not only for nitric oxide, but for overall health benefits. Agmatine has great health benefits.
Agmatine actually doesn't even work with NO. It has a completely different mechanism. So if you look at the molecule, it's very, very similar to arginine. It's just missing what in chemistry is called a carboxyl group. But it doesn't bind to NO. It actually binds with your imidazole receptors like blood pressure medications like clonidine do, and it releases, it lowers your blood pressure that way. And so it's not actually boosting NO, it's actually just causing vasodilation via an entire different mechanism.
So it's a good thing to add in. I mean, it's not a bad ingredient. I think in the grand scheme of things, comparing it to like arginine, it's there. It has its benefits. Nitrosogene silicate with arginine, which has good data on it as well. It's a Nutrition 21 ingredient. I like nitrosogene. I like its applications. Again, I think nitric oxide, I think it's something, you put in a pre-workout, you anytime you can increase blood flow and vasodilation, I can argue this, well, so it's not anabolic. Well, it's not, but anytime you can deliver nutrients to the muscle more efficiently, I think you're putting yourself in an environment more conducive to muscle growth and results. That's just my opinion. I look beyond the science sometimes. I'm like, well, if you're getting more blood there, that's got to be good.
Yeah, so on his point, personally, I like sodium nitrate, and that is one of the ingredients that will be in the new Hype Extreme, which is coming out.
Yeah, I use butane nitrate in one of mine. Any nitrates are great.
Yeah, so the nitrate group is basically that gets reduced into NO directly, so it doesn't interact with NO synthase. There's no chemical reaction where it has to go from A to B to C. It kind of just goes from A to C. And so it very quickly causes vasodilation and very effectively. And to that point, I like taking that with, your aminos and your carbs, and that way you are getting more nutrients to your muscles more effectively, which, like Marc said, is going to create an anabolic environment. Milo Sarchev was a huge proponent of the carbs and aminos, the intra-workouts and stuff.
Him and Poliquin.
Yeah,
a lot of Poliquin stuff.
Getting all those nutrients into your blood during training, because when you're training, I think almost 80% of your blood is going towards your muscles. So if you have those nutrients in your body that are saturated in your blood and all your blood's going to your muscles, you have to elicit muscle growth. There's nowhere else for it to go. Yeah.
So on that note, where can they so you have Glycolog, honestly, that's something that we sell a ton of at Tiger Fitness because it works. It's probably the best in the category at this time. If it is the best in the category at this time, I'll say that unequivocally. And what else you got going on over there? What other products they got from the Guerrilla Chemist?
Well, we have Dust Extreme, which is our pre-workout.
That will not. I was taking that all in Vegas. It had me giddy. That is a good pre.
I'm currently Hype Extreme will be out next week, I believe. We're getting it in the office this week. I have a joint product coming out that uses UC2, which is the collagen, denatured collagen 2, which has a lot of data, and a couple other good things that are not glucosamine and chondroitin, because I think those are garbage. I have an adrenal care product, which we were talking about is a big problem in the industry, is that people take stimulants too much and they don't cycle off. And so this is a product that can help restore the sensitivity of your receptors from taking too many stimulants and getting adrenal fatigue from that. And I personally like nootropics, and the nootropics are going to be in Hype Extreme, so I use those instead of using stimulants a lot. I think there's a lot of good data, and if you've ever taken them, they're experiential. And like, what's in Mental Jewels?
Oh man, we got everything. We get basically all the scientifically proven, the cognizized, things like that.
Okay.
I mean, we have the same philosophy on mental performance, and I think you should supplement your brain as much as you supplement your body, because your brain's everything. But yeah, so where can they follow you on social media?
So right now I have on Instagram, my handle is at the Guerrilla Chemist. I post every day almost.
Long, extensive scientific posts.
Yeah.
Like you need a encyclopedia to fucking read.
I try and make it as easily digestible as possible. Some stuff is science and I have to use certain words, but I'll try and explain that in everything.
You probably know from this video there's a lot of words that you're gonna be like, what the fuck is he talking?
But every Monday I do Molecule Monday, and I go over a different ingredient. I do all the studies, the latest studies that come out. I compare all the products that people are using, everything basically we talked about. I do nutrition stuff, which is not my forte, but I understand biochemistry enough to do that. And there's a YouTube website that will be coming out very shortly that'll have all these videos on there. And then at the BlackstoneLabs.com, you can see articles that I've written and stuff like that.
Good shit. Anyway, Matt, thanks for everything.
Marc,
it's a hell of a little training session. And yeah, follow his ass. And that's not a game.